Hi everybody, it's Mark with exoticcarplayplace, standing in front of this glorious 2006 E60 M5 BMW. Today I'm going to give you the top 5 things that go wrong, that are known issues on the E60 M5 here, and I'm going to explain to you what exactly is the detail on those items, how you look for the problems, how you can expect to fix these problems, and some of the costs associated with some of the larger ticket items. So I'm going to share that with you today. What you do have to understand before we get started, this is easily one of BMW's best cars of all time, and at the same time, one of their very worst, and for various reasons, and we're going to get into that. But what you do have to understand, if you're not aware of what this car really is, I'm going to share something with you. This is the understated, underrated, underestimated car of the last decade and change. The wonderful E60 M5 here that produces 507 brake horsepower, 383 foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 60 close to 4 seconds, and tops out at a massive 205 miles per hour when equipped with a chip. So everybody, stick around. We're going to get started, and I'm going to talk to you about the 5 worst things that you can expect to be watching out for on the E60 M5. So let's get right at it, everybody. We're going to talk about the top 5 things that you really need to know about the E60 M5. So let's get started. Number 1, rod bearings. The rod bearings have an ugly history of failure on these cars. Rod bearings being the point where your connecting rod connects to the rods, which connects to the piston. So that connection from the rod to the crankshaft is known to wear at an extremely quick rate. There's been rumors whether warranty covers it or whether warranty doesn't cover it. But what really is that failure point? So it's been a very controversial topic for BMW owners alike through and through. It doesn't matter if you have a US car, a European car. It all seems to afflict all these vehicles. And it's been very controversial. The questions have been asked. Is it a matter of the incorrect oil viscosity? Is it a matter of the tolerances are out to lunch? Is it a matter of warm-up technique and driving style? At the end of the day, really what it boils down to is the point 0 kilometers is where your wear starts. The life is not very long on these cars, and you can almost expect somewhere between 40,000 and 80,000 miles to have a set of bearings that are in rough shape. So somewhere in that range, you might want to consider either have the bearings been replaced, or maybe is it something I need to budget for if I'm looking at one of these cars. Regardless of the fact, the repair can actually be done with the engine in the car. If you capture this and deal with this more as a preventative maintenance tactic, then you could probably prevent yourself from seeing some catastrophic large dollar expenses, because as soon as you impose damage and wear on the crankshaft, then it becomes a much larger job. They can access it from the bottom, and you're really looking at about a $2,000 to $3,000 bill to get that all serviced up for you. So the second thing that you need to be aware of failure points on the E60 M5 motor is the vanos. The vanos, they have a double vanos system in the M5s, here in the V10 M5. And that vanos, you ask, what is that? Well, vanos is BMW's version of the variable valve timing, which alters the timing of the intake valves and the exhaust valves to ensure that you have optimal timing at whatever rev range that you happen to be at. What this provides is smooth idle and quick acceleration at lower RPM, but it gives the engine breathing at the top end of the RPM range, up at closer to 8250 RPM. So it gives you a full range of flexibility of that engine, and you don't get lumpy spots. The idea is to give it a nice linear power band right from idle all the way up to the red line. So some things you might consider as failures on this. Obviously it won't shift, so there's issues in the vanos not doing its job. You can get buzzing and humming noises coming from under the hood that might indicate some issues in the vanos. Another failures are potentially the oil pressure lines. This thing runs at a very, very high oil pressure of about 1,600 psi, which it's been known that some of these lines have ruptured and you've had failures along that and essentially dumped your whole schwack of oil on the ground in a very short period of time. If you ever see an engine light come on, that's a note. Or if you've ever seen an oil light come on the M5, stop the car as soon as safely possible to do that. One of the major failures could be the pump. The Vanos pump is one of the big ones. The ruptured lines is another one. The pump itself can cost about $2,000. And this pump can fail because of a lack of maintenance. So this brings you back to the proper oiling. So it's a sign that it's even more important to change your oil regularly, because in this case, the oil doesn't just lubricate, it doesn't just cool the engine, but the oil is actually shared and utilized in the Vanos system, which if you have dirty oil that's contaminated, that's a pretty good way to start deteriorating that pump in the Vanos system, which can escalate a failure on the Vanos. So again, clean engine oil is always very important, of the right viscosity, of course, too. So the third thing that is kind of a high dollar item that is not uncommon to fail in the E60 M5 is the SMG transmission and or the clutch itself. And what is the SMG? Well, the SMG is the sequential manual gearbox that BMW utilizes, and it's a single clutch system operated via a set of solenoids, and that is basically a electrically actuated clutch system. So getting to that, there's a clutch position sensor that if that fails, you're looking at about $400 plus 2 to 3 hours labor to change. I'm just going to give you some examples, of course. The hydraulic wiring can go for the SMG system. That's another failure point. The SMG pump. If a clutch goes, and you can expect a clutch to wear out because a clutch is in fact a wearing part, you can expect the clutch to go somewhere between 50 to 80,000 miles. And that's going to cost you roughly in the neighborhood of about $6,000 US to change. If you've seen a lot of abuse, a lot of hard driving, maybe hard launches, or you've just got crap luck, sometimes there's cases where your flywheel needs to be changed. You might as well tack on another $1,000 to tackle that flywheel job too while you're in there. So the fourth thing that's known to fail on the E60 M5, and very common I might add, is the differential. Now the differential has a few different failure modes. One of them being leaks, so you have to source out the source of the leak and repair that. Another one is because the car has a lot of power, the differential tends to be a little bit fragile, and there's been many cases where the differential just blows apart completely. Another point that you might consider is, I know when the car first came out, there was a lot of customer complaints because of, at slow speed turning, if you're turning full lock one way or the other, say in a parking lot or something, you would often find the rear end would judder or make some noises, grinding noises. There's clutches internal to that differential, and you'd get a grinding noise or a rough sound that a lot of customers complained about. BMW quickly responded to that, and they changed through a TSB, a bulletin, and addressed this with a change of additive or a change of lubricant that basically made that problem go away for the most part. This problem was more of an issue when the unit was breaking in, not so much once the vehicle was actually worn in and driving. It was a lot more prevalent when the vehicle was new. And so the fifth thing that is a known problem on the E60 M5 engine happens to be the throttle actuators. And the throttle actuators, let me start out by saying there's two in this car. There's one on each bank. We have a V10, we have one on this side, one on this side. And when they fail, you can count at least $620 US per actuator. So if you have two of them fail, then you're $1,240. And when they fail, that usually results, you know they fail because you get a host of lights on your dash. It's like Christmas time is here. So it tells you that, and then basically what happens, it puts your car into limp mode. So there's no, driving around without, knowing that it's functioning. It's pretty obvious it's not working. And coincidentally, everybody, I've also had an actuator throttle assembly die on my car. I've had to get that fixed. Fortunately, it was done under warranty, but I do know what happens. I've experienced it firsthand, so be prepared. That's a common failure on these cars. So everybody, that's the top 5. I hope that helps you when you're looking at your next purchase, if you're looking at buying one of these, or if you're an existing owner and you're trying to anticipate whether you need to buy that extended warranty. Please do consider these factors. As well, it is a mechanical car, right? Obviously, there's a lot of other pieces that move, a lot of pieces that wear. There's wear and tear imposed on everything. You can expect brakes and ball joints and everything else that goes, but a lot of those are common to every kind of vehicle out there. These are the issues, the top 5 issues that are expensive and unique to the S85 engine found in the E60 M5. Okay, everybody, I really hope you enjoyed that video. I just wanted to shed some of this light. The top 5 issues that you can expect to find on an E60 M5. And again, I caution you, don't buy one of these cars until you're satisfied with the car that you're searching for happens to have some of those issues resolved or have been rectified, dealt with, managed, or at least watch for them on a pre-purchase inspection. Everybody, please, thanks again. Do like, subscribe, and don't forget to share some comments below or questions that you might have on this car. I'm definitely excited to share my knowledge, which is, a fair amount of experience that I've had with my E60 to date. I'm definitely willing to share and talk with you guys. So if you're interested in asking some questions, please drop me a line. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.